You are the only participant in the conference. The recording has started.
Greetings, welcome. Let me go ahead and get some of this other tech going. Welcome, Angie on Owen County. Welcome, dear. All right. Oh, and I see we have someone else who's joined the call. We'll know who they are in just a moment, and we can welcome them too. Let's get. I don't know how to do comments in Telegram. If you're one that is able to leave, if you do get into Telegram and you're able to post a comment in Telegram, make sure you put your first name and what county on Indiana that you're on so that we can be able to welcome you. And we'll make sure because after the call, I go in and edit the presentation to include who was on the call with us and what county they were on, and then that's what's posted to the Assembly website. So, all right, so we have callers and places. So again, we've seen where Angie's welcomed us on the call. Welcome to the call. All right, we have another caller. Go ahead and make sure you get your name and county in the chat. All right. Wayne and Terry on Miami. Welcome. You guys were in the new member orientation call prior to. Welcome. Thank you for being on that call. We want to, that's one that you don't, and it's not like one and done. You can always come to as many of those as you want, because as new information is coming, we're all on a path of course correct. As new information comes in, it'll be updated as it goes along. So, and it's always that repetition, as well as the more you do it, the more you may want to be that mentor to be able to help in the chat. If people have questions, you can be able to help sideline questions while the presentation is going on, various things of ways to be able to help support. Again, every single stage of this process is of, for, and by the people. Okay? So, and that means literally every bit of this we all have to build. All right. So we have free conference. We've got YouTube going that should also have Rumble, Odyssey. And it gives also for Telegram, so it should be helping it, but we know Telegram, and we've got free conference call. Again, anyone with tech kind of support of being able to work with these various, of even just using the tools to be able to help work with, or if you wanted to be a moderator for the different tools, like if your preferred platform is Telegram and you wanted to be a moderator on that to be able to help support with questions, or if you were on free conference call, things like that, we're looking for support in that way, as well as if you do have like the actual tech experience of recording things. That's where a lot of the help is needed as well. Making sure the connections are live, making sure that all the connections are getting the recordings going, things like that. So all ways that you can be able to help and support for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and again, if you're on free conference call but didn't want to be in the free conference call part, you can go to the wall calendar for the assembly and listen. You'll push play to be able to listen live that way as well. All right, I want to welcome everyone. It is Monday, March the 11th, 2024. The Indiana Assembly, Jural Assembly, and Militia Assemblies are in session. Welcome, welcome. I am Christine Michelle Van Pelt. I'm the state coordinator, lead recording secretary, and hopefully later in the call at some point, our guest speaker, Joe Hayes. He is the PKTF executive director, as well as he is our area 4 postal chief, and he is our direct support on getting the training as to how the peacekeeping side and the militia and how peacekeeping intermingles within the 4 pillars, and you'll learn more as we go along. And also you'll be able to ask him questions directly, as well as in the presentation, as well as in the email invite has an email that you can email him directly your questions, so that he can be able to bring them to the call to answer as well. So let's go ahead and we'll take a moment to honor our creator. All right, and we'll go ahead. In the presentation, again, in the description will be, after the call will be the link, but here is the agenda, and these are links as pages so that you can be able to, share the screen. Thank you. Yes, thank you. See, that's helpful. That's very helpful. Okay, let me get that up. Share desktop. You should be able to see that. I know YouTube should be seeing it. Telegram is not seeing, y'all are not seeing it yet on free conference call, then, are you? Should be coming up. Should. Let's see. Let's try that. Move this over. Try that. Yes! Good? Does that help? Let's see. Oh. Yes, maybe. Yes, okay. Thank you, thank you. Again! Appreciate it. It's kind of awkward. Okay, so everybody should be going with seeing this. Okay, so here's the agenda. So when you go back to it again, afterwards will be the description in YouTube, until I can be able to get it uploaded and everything to the Assembly website. But at least it'll be there as well. And because that's where we're also looking for nationals or citizens that are interested in supporting that have web support as well, to be able to help get our videos uploaded to keep them all maintained as a record on the Assembly website, as well as with the agendas and things like that. So again, reach out if you have that, if you're willing to offer that's ways you can be able to serve. But it's not a paid service, it's all volunteer. Again, it's of, by, and for we the people. This is the only way it's going to happen. There is no IRS bodyguard system enforcing it to be able to get the money to be able to make things move. This is all by all of us. Let me move this up a little bit higher so I can see if there'll be any chats for me to look at. Okay. Come back to here. All right. Let's see. And you'll be able, these are linked, so you can either go to that page or you'll be able to click on it to go there directly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do the Bivens decision. And you can post your comment in any of the chats. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflicts and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting who is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? It's not that you can't be here, but you must disclose up front. All right, let's see. And you can post that in the comments. All right, welcome John from Carroll County. He's not posting he's not answering to the Bivens decision. He's posting who he is. We want to recognize him. So I want to make sure that we include that. So hearing and seeing none in response to the Bivens decision for the first time. Is there any response to the Bivens decision for the second time? Right, John. Hearing and seeing none, is there any response to the Bivens decision for the third and final time? All right. Anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here, must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the premises. Okay? And again, it's not that you aren't welcome, it's just that it's to protect all of us. Alright, now let me make sure, yeah, we got a camera going there. I'm not able to do camera on free conference call like I am for the YouTube, where it's a camera on me for YouTube and Telegram, because free conference call is not able to work with that aspect and be able to also screen share. So just pointing out, so if you were wondering, because I do like to try, because we're face forward, we come as we are. All right. So assembly participation and behavior guidelines. And you can go to Article 3022, Focus for Assemblies, a reminder nationality is a birthright, but assembly membership is a choice. If you want to join, you're going to be put to work, but also set boundaries. While we cannot deprive people of their birthright, we can and must throw destructive people out of meetings and refuse to let them interfere with getting the work done. We still have work to do, and there are many that want to just create problems just to create that distraction to hold things up. Participation in assemblies is predicated on being polite and productive members of the community. Troublemakers and anarchists and the me people need to be disciplined, educated, and if need be, shown the door. Not thrown the door, but shown the door. The assemblies are business organizations engaged in very serious and important business. We have to set the tone for new members. We know many of those that are coming in have had no accountability. They had no parents to be there to help them understand what the word no means and how to act correctly. We have to be the one to help set that tone for new members and establish the group values so that the group as a whole disciplines people to be polite, logical, none of this dancing all around and staying off point just to keep distraction. Business-like and mature. The moment anyone starts acting like a 7th grader and gossiping and being paranoid, it's up to the whole group to let that person know that that behavior pattern is not appropriate, not productive, not appreciated, and won't be tolerated. Shun gossip and fear-mongering, and it will disappear, because those are tactics to create division. United we stand, divided we fall, right? Their whole purpose is to anything that's a division, to keep you separated from the whole, is their purpose, because then it's easier to get you out of the way. And they move on. All right. So, again, this is March 11th, 2024, and the Indiana Jural Assembly and Militia Assemblies are in session. I'm the coordinator as well as the moderator through this process. Eventually, someone that is willing to step up to be moderator can go on the ballot for elections to be elected as moderator and can step into that role, and then I can be able to step back on that aspect, and they can start working with supporting in that area as well. Or when the assembly elects a assembly recording secretary, assembly secretary, the general assembly secretary, then that one would be able to step up and would be maintaining the minutes, the presentation agenda, things like this that I work through here. And then they are that liaison between the those that are wanting to put information on the agenda, as well as then getting the agenda posted out there. So various ways to be able to support in many capacities. Right now we have Wayne and Terry on Miami County. They're on free conference calls, so they're going to be added in with myself listed there for conference call. YouTube has Angie on Owen County and John from Carroll County, so the update will include that, and I will do my best to try and capture as many as I can afterwards before I post it, if there were comments left. But again, that's where we, having someone to be able to help support capturing all those locations to be able to make sure we capture everybody would be very helpful. So that's where a moderator on the different platforms would be helpful, that they could send an email saying, for whatever call it was for, whatever the date is, and there was this one and this one was on this one's name, this county, things like that. That would be helpful too. So anyone that was interested in supporting in that way as well. But we want to make sure that we're on board in agreement that we're supporting each other with that. Okay. All right, and I'm thinking later on, as soon as he can, remember that Joe he wears many hats that are all volunteer as well as he is a husband and father, and they have a farm, so he has a home as well as he has a job to be able to support their living. So he's not always able to attend every call. And we just want to also make sure that he is safe through his travels. But we always welcome him to the call in every opportunity he can. He also helps support to serve as that peacekeeper on our assembly call. But eventually, hopefully, someone will step up that is willing to go on the ballot to be our state marshal at arms. That will also serve as that peacekeeper that would be willing to commit to be on all the assembly calls. And not just, those are like the General Assembly, Jural Assembly, Militia Assembly calls, Business Assembly, things like that. But it doesn't mean you have to be at like all the outreach or new member calls like that, unless you would like to be, until you're able to bring others on to be able to support and be able to help with that aspect to keep that peacekeeping presence there. All right, so we're still working through Common Law Community Training Manual, establishing the reign of natural liberty, the common law and its courts. We want to get through that. This was one of the items that Anna included in her article number 4400 as to tools to be able to help us in our first priority of our mission of creating the People's Public Courts. And then we may not spend so much time on key officials, but at least it's in there. A lot of it we've already been through several times because I'm doing a larger chunk of the reading on that, but you'll have it in the agenda. And then go through a little bit of Anna's articles. Then if Joe is able to make it to the call, he'll have updates on what he's bringing forward as well, but if not as well, here are information that he is seeking, and there's links there to be able to get more information about it. The U.S. Border Patrol is dealing with the 100 air mile border, and they've been harassing the Americans and even their U.S. citizens rather than enforcing immigration policies through there. So he's asked that the counties that are within that 100-mile air radius, which his map you'll be able to look at, and there's previous calls. I need to get a picture of that up so you can be able to see where I'm kind of figuring which counties are in, because it's not all of the northern counties, but it's most of the northern counties are within that space. And we're needing to deal with finding sheriffs in those areas. We can go through more of that, as well as assembly liaison with peacekeeper. We possibly have someone that has stepped up, but not sure yet any more detail on commitment wise from that. But we'll learn more. Now, if things happen, if technology happens and we're not able to do it, we've got it in the presentation, but we're going to also say it now. We'll adjourn. Next General Assembly call is March the 18th, and the next Jural Assembly call is March 25th, both at 6 p.m. Central. All right. We always want to make sure that we have an adjourn date. Coordinator's mission, and this is one that we share with everyone because we're all a part of this to be able to, we're all bringing this forward, is of, by, and for the people. All right, and that is Joe popping in a message real quick. Oh, he's not able to make it? Okay, as long as he's safe. That's the main thing. Okay. All right, so the mission. We cannot fail. We're willing and able to do this work physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We have resolve and determination. We walk the talk and work every day to bring the de jure into reality. We have excellent tools to complete our work. We set realistic and achievable goals. We learn and research constantly. We have a timeline. There's no reason why it can't be done this year. The only holdup is you. We track our progress, we measure our strengths and weaknesses, we continually approve and revise accordingly, because we're all course correcting as we're working through to learn this process. And we conduct ourselves with peace and love. Alright, so some reminders. Spotting infiltrators. Now, they're going to still be considered an infiltrator even if they're indoctrinated, because they're not really... But not from the perspective that, yes, that they've got a government or some agency is paying them to be into that. But technically in some way, because they're still holding on to that old programming, right? But you want to make sure that there are typical signs. But we need to be reminded that there are some that can be highly trained and well-paid operatives with the patience to carry out a long-term plan of disruption. They're willing to literally become Sally down the street that's been working at the local grocery store for the last 5 years. So think about that. They're at that level as well. They've told us in all the spy movies of how deeply embedded they'll get. Some have personal agendas of gaining positions of power or control. Both are adept at concealing their actual motives. Both are adept at concealing their actual motives, easily gaining our trust with charisma and so-called leadership skills. Okay? And many will even try to say, well, I want to look at all that information first. And sometimes I've been known to do that as well, but it's also from the perspective, if it's not something that's online yet, sometimes I will delay, because that's only further making you go through that longer waiting process, because there's no more action that you can do. Or there could be action steps, but getting you that information may be difficult for you to then also apply those steps to start doing something in the meantime, but you still have a wait period until it comes online regardless. Okay? So it's think about how you're doing that, or are you just doing it anyway? Well, think about it. It's always in thinking about, why you're doing it. Work through that. Is it in alignment with what it is you're trying to do? They may repeatedly lie, manufacture truths, twist or bend the actual truth, speak half-truths, or omit truth to gain advantage. On the other hand, some may be assembly members who have been easily manipulated, bribed, paid, or duped into aligning themselves with these higher-level infiltrators. Some are people who are members of other assemblies that for some reason think that they're in competition with us. Regardless of their origin, their goal is the same: to distract, disrupt, and derail us from our mission. And separate, divide, right? Because the more that they can get to divide, it's easier in the ear to convince them to do something they wouldn't normally do. So, and there's more there. As well as then Honest Article 3374, warning signs. The key first modus operandi is that first thing they want to do is attack the coordinators. They're sure that it's the coordinators' fault that they didn't give them the information, even though they're replying with the information in the email that they're sending. But they're sure the coordinator didn't give them that information. Or it's something that Anna has said that they want to throw back up, where they got half information. Or it's something about the paperwork process. They want to cut short. They want to do side steps. They think they can weave and jump over here and think that, well, it doesn't matter, even though Anna has stated that the 928 bundle is those documents are for a reason, and they work together cohesively, which are your foundation. But had you paid attention to that information, you would have known that. Or they have a problem with how the assembly is being processed. And this information is coming directly of how at this point in time, the Federation is the one that is providing the training to the assemblies. There is only one state assembly. I am that state coordinator for that state assembly that is working directly with the actual lawful federation. That training is coming from the Federation. They have purview and overview of the Federation as it's building up its 4 pillars, until the assembly can show that it has all 4 pillars standing and it can actually act in court, and then will be released to be able to stand on its own. Further tactics, and then here is also a link to that article. Mission statement. And as I said, the number 1 on the mission statement: our Indiana Assembly is dedicated to the restoration of a complete and fully operational land and soil jurisdiction state and county court system, serving the people of Indiana. Very first thing in our mission. There is no, well, what are we supposed to do? We've been given 7 specific tasks that the assemblies are supposed to do. The second thing, the preservation of the national trust, the enforcement of the public law, the upholding of the federal constitution owed to our state and people, the repopulation of our land and soil jurisdiction, the filling of vacated public offices. That's what the different offices are for within the different assemblies, between the General Assembly and the Jural Assembly and the Militia Assembly, Business Assembly, filling those public offices, and the reclamation of our material and intellectual public and private assets. To these ends, we, the living people of Indiana, and it's the living lowercase people of Indiana, all the nationals of Indiana, have called the eligible Indiana nationals and citizen electors to assemble and to serve as jurors and officers. And we have established the process and procedure to qualify jurors and others competent to hold state citizenship and public office. So there is no, you're not going to come in thinking, well, I'm going to create a whole plan of how we're going to do this. No, the Federation has already provided the plan of action. That's where you're working together through that plan of action to put it together. We do this peacefully and without rancor in the exercise of our unincorporated powers and capacities. Alright, then we have our outreach mission, because everyone is part of outreach, right? We were told to spread the good news, right? And that's what drives them crazy, is that's part of also uniting more, is because we're sharing that good news. And they don't want that good news out, right? But we were given, our command is from a higher authority to share the good news, right? So everyone is a part of outreach. Here's our mission statement, is to help people understand who they are and why they were misidentified as U.S. citizens of the United States, and provide a solution by correcting their political status, joining the Indiana Assembly, including home county assembly, and becoming actively involved in restoring the Republican form of government we are owed. Now, that does not mean that I'm only going to join my county assembly and I'm waiting till people stand up for my county assembly. No. You all come to the state assembly and build the state assembly as more on your county start populating. The state assembly is going to give you that structure so you'll know and have had others to be able to work through those processes, so you'll know how to then implement it on your county. You don't sit around and wait and hold everyone up until more people show up on your county. Come to the state and work at the state level and support from that aspect. You can still only mainly be your focus in your local community, your county, but it's always still coming back and bringing it from the state assembly. But again, going outside of the assembly, trying to conduct things and moving forward with the county when you haven't addressed the state assembly to say, okay, we've got enough people on our county that we would like to go ahead and start meeting for our own general assembly calls so we can start doing that build. Okay, and then that way you also have the support from the state assembly through that process. All right, so we do this through a combination of consulting, facilitation, and training services that provide the optimal benefit of the future American. To assist future Americans, we offer a range of opportunities designed to live like an American. We do this through high-impact video conferencing, a turnkey political correction process, web-based libraries, local assembly meetings, state assembly meeting, and even local is also being that we're doing it remotely. We're still connecting. State assembly meeting, continental marshal and deputy program, state and county committees. And again, the more you show up, more will start showing up. Then you will start being able to seeing more within that are from your county, that you can then start connecting with those on your county because you've come to the assembly, you've met with each other, so you can then start connecting on your county and then start working together to assemble, right? All right. Value statements. We stand under the laws of nature. The laws of nature is God, the Ten Commandments, the Declaration of Independence. We accept the fiduciary responsibility of the Indiana Trust and operate under the prudent man standard, meaning we treat our state business as if it were our own business, not with self-interest or personal gain. We keep the peace and uphold the public law. We report crime. We value each man and woman as a unique creation of our Creator, and we recognize them as a powerful co-creator. We willingly choose to self-govern and strive to show up as our best self in each and every experience. We do not and we will not condone or participate in any form of insurrection, rebellion, or creation of armed forces other than the lawful state assembly militias, operated as they are supposed to be operated within each state, and our land-based Continental Marshal Service, which is our jurisdictional interface with the U.S. Marshal Service. We perform under the treaties and constitutional agreements already established and for supporting the restored American government, the reconstruction thereof, and will become responsible for the conduct of the restored Confederation and Federal Republic. So here are some important documents for you to be able to go download. Assembly affirmation and purpose of conduct for you to be able to read through and put your autograph to it and present to the assembly. Your contact information to the assembly so that it's beneficial for contact for the General Assembly as well as Jural and Militia Assembly. Then that gets sent to the assembly. Then for your personal records are the Indian Assembly men and women points of order of how to be able to support you through understanding how to handle yourself within an assembly call, especially as business starts occurring. Assembly militia standards and principles that everyone needs as well, because everyone is a member of the militia. Ages 21 to 45, whether you're a man or woman. Terry says that if you can pass a bottle of water to someone, you're a part of the militia. There's all kinds of support services that in various ways to be able to help there as well. Here is a link to committees, the way we work. Everything comes through the General Assembly, and then the General Assembly will there are certain committees that are for each of the assemblies, but they start through the General Assembly, so everyone has an opportunity to be able to see where they can be able to participate. And those are the ones that are actually ready to actually step up and do some work, and not just that they're wanting to be a on-the-call side chair, armchair quarterback. Okay? And and that they're just privy to being on the call directly. No, these calls are for those that are actually wanting to roll up their sleeves and participate in the committees. And it gives gives what the different committees are for core ones that need to be developed, and some more details of within them, as well as that recommended committee structures. And then a template of starting to build those. Standard operating procedure template, that is so that we can actually start having a plan of action so that things can actually move forward on a timely basis, rather than getting stalled up because it didn't have a standard process of working through it. The call to public office, so you have a better understanding what each of the different roles are that need to be filled. And assembly offices is a little bit more of each of those offices. A reminder that it is your public duty. Yes, there is a public duty. It is your public duty. These are the articles. You can either go to onavonrights.com to find those articles in PDF, or search onavonrights.com for it. But here's also the audio for each of those. Here's the law of peace. It's time to start getting to know that the U.S. Army has a manual for the law of peace, and here is that to be able to start reading through that. At some point, we may have a side time of reading through that. That one that's a little bit thicker, has a little bit more involved in reading through that, if others aren't going to be reading it on the side as well. And we're working through the common law and its courts. Here is the link to the PDF of it, and we're reading through pages 8 through 12 for this evening. And here are important articles that you need to be reminded that you have 3 choices. You can either present and act accordingly here on the Land and Soil State Assembly, or you can go to a territorial assembly or a district assembly, or a municipal assembly. Here's the article for warning signs. You have district infiltrators. Here's information about the American way. That's a reminder again about the 3 choices that you have. And then here's a public international alert for state assemblies, which means that while those that are living on Indiana can attend most of the calls and can be able to participate in various ways, even participate in some voting. There's some things that, based on, depending on what it is, that it will have to be closed to only those that have presented their status correction to the assembly that would be able to participate. Nationwide, we're looking at going to Faith Monument in Plymouth. Here are 2 videos from Kirk Cameron about Faith Monument. It's the monument based on when our country was formed. Here are some links to be able to join us on Telegram. You'll be able to see the recording on there as well. We can start connecting and communicating in that way. If there's that's another source that's more of a free speech platform where we can be able to, but still be secure, where we can be able to share information in a less formal fashion, please let us know so that we can be able to see about figuring out incorporating that in. We've added Clout Hub. I haven't been able to do much with that yet, and so just some of the things, but all the links then right now are on Linktree in one place for you. Here's a reminder of it's Indiana, so there's a train going now. The 3 branches of the American government. This is our part that we're having to fill right here, that we need to reconstruct ourselves. We're not reforming them. We're here to reconstruct what was already in play. All right, so we have, here's the article, Organizational Goals for State Assembly. We want to do outreach and recruitment, so everyone is communicating with each other, connecting, but it's always come to the call. Bring them to the call. And then that way they can get more information as well, right? But we're looking for those that do currently live on Indiana, right? Help people understand and navigate the paperwork and record it. Help people join and participate in the assembly, either as state nationals or as state citizens. Explain the difference so that they can see which group they belong in. Now, state nationals feel no sense of duty to serve in supporting the build of the assembly, or they may want to still do that, but they still have other issues that they're trying to work through and break free that they have to still deal with. So there's other things that they can still do to be able to commit to supporting the assembly. And then there, of course, are the state citizens that have, because a state citizen already feels the obligation to serve. It's not like a U.S. citizen that's a citizen 24/7, so you can say, I'm issuing a citizen's arrest. No, that is not. An actual citizen means then you're actually stepping up to support representing those that are not able to stand up in the capacity to be able to support from a state level. Explain the difference again, and you'll be learning as you go through, because it goes layers and layers deep. All right, so there's the 4 pillars to the assembly. You'll hear it often, the 4 pillars, 4 different assemblies. There's the General Assembly, which is next week. Everyone is a part of the General Assembly. Everything it comes from the General Assembly. State citizens additionally serve on an international business assembly to decide international levels. So they're state citizens only that have actually canceled all their contracts and the allegiances and have presented to the assembly, not just said, I've done that. No, you have to actually present showing that there's a public record of that. Everyone serves as juror and is member of the jury pool as part of the Jural Assembly. So that's why everybody is a part of the Jural Assembly. State, national, state citizens are both eligible to decide cases involving in-state issues, while state citizens alone hear cases involving international subject matter. All right, and just like in the de facto, though, even though everyone is a member of the jury pool, doesn't mean you're always going to be able to serve on a jury at that point in time. There's a lot of different things that, would not, you wouldn't be able to. One, there could be too many eligible to stand at the moment, and the first 12 selected or something like that. There's various reasons. And then there's the militia, assembly militia, and that's, again, anyone is 21 to 45 or however old that's eligible to serve as part of the assembly militia. The General Assembly holds all the elections, the International Assembly, the courts, and the militia. So it's all the elections are held within the General Assembly. The chairman of the General Assembly is the speaker for the assembly, not the president, not the CEO. All right, now, as I stated earlier, once the assembly is organized, functioning on all 4 cylinders, all 4 pillars are operating. That includes the courts. Then the coordinator's role sunsets. But it's also, at that point, it's not until you have to get everything organized and functioning, and then we present to the Federation, and then the Federation does a review, and if the Federation gives a yes, then the state is not separated from the Federation, but the Federation then no longer holds as much overview and is there as a support, added support still. Again, the General Assembly is the driver for all of it. Everything goes through the General Assembly. And you'll hear more and more about the 4 pillars and more details in there. Here's a visual of the 4 pillars and giving you an idea of what the different public offices that need to be filled within those. To be able to support you, so you can start gaining an idea of what role you may be interested in. And if you'll go in your LRO member record and go in there to the Participate tab and select all that you're interested in, and and all of what abilities you have available that you could be able to share. Please go ahead and check all of that as much as possible, because all of that will help support in the separating out to help get people getting their support to get them moving forward. All right. All right. So right now we have 31 counties that they're in this light yellow that have at least spoken up to say that they are interested in learning more. The 30 that are in white, they're dormant. We haven't heard anyone from those counties yet. So then you have these two other colors, the orange color, because the counties are actually populated as soon as the first man or woman puts their paperwork on the record with the assembly, because by default it's populating both at the same time. But then when it's populated where it's able to, they can start working towards building that county assembly needs to at least have 2 or more. So the ones that have at least 2 or more that have presented their status correction, whether as a national or as a citizen, there are 15 of those counties that are ready that they could be able to start actively helping. But it's, again, you've got to start at the state level, so you've got to come to the state calls, because you're not going to be able to have any plan of action of how to build your county level. It has to come from the state level to give you that training for it to flow through on the county, because all the counties will be reviewed at some point as well to make sure that they're following the same format of the state, to make sure that we're all following land and soil jurisdiction, and so no one is just open to try and weasel in different tactics. So if your county is somewhere around a white or a yellow, start connecting into those counties and spreading the word. On the indianaassembly.org, in the menu, there's a one that says outreach, and there's business cards that you can be able to print up, flyers, things like that will direct them to the state, the 50 state site, and some information directly to the Indiana Assembly. But we really want to also have them start at the federation level anyway, to be able to start getting that core information. It's still going to direct them, if they live on Indiana today, that they'll direct them here to the state assembly. So a brief note I wanted to bring up is that more prosperity card information updates came from Anna on their on the podcast for United States of America. Episode 23 was just last week. There is a link to it. Make sure that you've also updated your email address with the assembly. We've had to change email service providers because of those not actually opening their emails. They may be previewing them or not even finding them in their spam or junk folders, and didn't go through of saying not spam or something like that. And the algorithms are blacklisting, so they're not getting the email. So make sure you go over to the assembly website, even the athomeonindiana.org, and update your email information. You, self-governing, you're the one that has to put yourself on the list. You're the one that has to do the follow-up and confirming. I cannot do that for you. They're censoring emails, and they're blacklisting them so that you're not seeing them, but yet it affects the assembly's email list, because it counts on how many emails are being sent out and number of contacts. Okay, so you've got to follow through on your part as well. Don't email me and say, yes, I've tried clicking all of this and it's still not working. Well, you need to make checking your spam and junk folders as part of your regular, just like you check your inbox. And then make it a regular habit to delete what you've already looked through, so you're not having to weed through it again, because they like to get them all, you'll lose them within there. So go ahead and delete them once you've already gone through, to make sure it's not something important. But if it's there, you need to actually go in and click report not spam. I had to do it myself, because I have one of those alphabet letter ones for my personal, so I also have a test to see how it looks on that side. And even though I went through the very first confirmation had me do, it popped it into the spam folder. I had to click report not spam, then go back to the inbox, go in and finish, click in the actual email to actually do the email portion to say that you're confirming the email. But then there were still a good 3 or 4 emails afterwards where it was still popping it into spam that I had to continuously do it. So you have to take control of the algorithms. Okay, which means you're going to have to actually go check those spam emails. You're actually going to have to click report not spam. Then when you go to your inbox, you have to actually open the email. Just previewing does not let the algorithms know that you're actually interested. Even if you don't click a thing in it, at least open it so that the algorithms know that you still want to receive them. Otherwise, after a while, they'll just automatically pop. If you haven't opened an email for a little while, they think they're being generous and going ahead and popping it back into spam. And then they start blacklisting it again. So, things to think about. Another thing is that there's information going out possibly that that people are using other people's addresses to use for a false voter registration for the de facto. So you'll want to see if you can check your own address and location, even though you went through your cancellation of voter registration. You'll still want to go ahead and check your address and location to see if there are others that are registering to vote using your address. So things to think about. Alright, as I had earlier, here is the link to the PDF of our reading for today, but we are going to play the reading. Where did I load that? Okay, so hold on just a moment till I see how I have that. We'll stop that screen share in free conference call for a moment. Did I put it in broadcaster? Yes, okay. So, and Telegram should still be screen sharing, and OBS for all the other stuff, so it should still be screen sharing. And let's see. Oh, wait. Greetings, this is Christine Van Pelt on Gibson County, Indiana, State Coordinator for the Indiana Assembly. We're continuing with Common Law Community Training Manual, Establishing the Reign and Natural Liberty, the Common Law and its Courts, a Community Training Manual. And we are on the bottom of page 9, or page 8 here. Previous calls, we've been going through segments of it, and this time we're going to go through a larger segment because it is one piece, so we can keep some continuity with this aspect of it. Legal procedure and court protocol. Common law, being derived from natural justice, bases its legal procedures on the centrality of due process. The threefold right of anyone to be notified of the charges being brought against him, to see the evidence in such a suit, and to be tried and judged before his own peers. His own peers. Okay, we'll go ahead and continue. No legitimate trial can proceed, nor can a conviction be rendered if the accused has not been given these rights and afforded the chance to freely defend himself in a court of law. Such rights are based on these fundamental doctrines of the common law. 1. It is presumed the accused is innocent, not guilty. 2. The burden of proof of the accused guilt rests not upon the defendant but the plaintiff, who must convince a jury of the guilt of the accused beyond any reasonable doubt. And 3. The accused cannot be detained without due process, but must appear promptly before a court according to the principle of habeas corpus, Latin for produce the body. Both sides in a dispute are given equal time to file their statements and evidence, make motions to the court, and respond to arguments. But to avoid vexation litigation designed to simply harass or disrupt an adversary, which can drag out and impede justice and due process itself, the court normally sets a strict limit on pretrial proceedings, after which the trial must commence. The pretrial period is designed to allow both sides the opportunity to present their evidence and arguments to one another in order to seek a settlement prior to court appearance. This presentation is usually referred to as examination for discovery, or voir dire, to see and to say, and where either party can demand any relevant evidence or document from the other. If examination does not produce a settlement of differences, then the court is convened and a trial begins. The general procedures and protocols of a common law court are summarized in the following outline, which must be followed by anyone seeking to accuse and try other parties. Step 1. Compiling the case. A statement of claim must be produced by those bringing a case, known as the plaintiffs. Their statement sets out in point from the basic facts of the dispute, the wrong being alleged, and the relief or remedy being sought. Next, the plaintiff's statement of claim must be accompanied by supportive evidence, documents and testimonies proving their case beyond any reasonable doubt. This evidence must be duly sworn by those not party to the dispute in the form of witness test statements, and it must consist of the original documents themselves and not copies. As well, anyone whose testimony is used in this body of evidence must be willing to come into court to testify and affirm their own statement. Step 2. Seeking the remedy of a common law court, filing a notice of claim of right. After gathering his case, a plaintiff must then seek the aid of a common law court and its officers. Such a court can be brought into being by publishing a notice of claim of right, see Appendix B, Court Documents, which is a public declaration calling for the assistance of the community in the asserting of the plaintiff's right under natural justice to have his case heard through the common law by way of a jury of his neighbors and peers. Such a notice can be published in local newspapers or simply notarized and posted in a prominent public location like a town hall or library. Step 3. Forming a common law court. Within 24 hours of the issuing of such a notice of claim of right, any 12 citizens of a community can constitute themselves as a common law court and its jury, and must then appoint the following court officers from their ranks. A court adjudicator to advise and oversee the court. A public or citizen prosecutor to conduct the case. This person is normally the plaintiff himself or someone he authorizes to advise but not represent him. A defense counsel to advise but not represent the accused. A court sheriff, either elected from the community or delegated from among existing peace officers. Bailiffs, a court registrar, and a court reporter. It is assumed that people with knowledge of the common law and legal procedure will act in these capacities. And as mentioned, a common law magistrate and justice of the peace may also initiate this information of a common law court. Step 4. Swearing in and convening the jury and court officers, oaths of office. Upon the appointment of these court officers, the adjudicator, a justice of the peace or a comparable magistrate, will formally convene the court by taking and administering the following oath of common law court office to all of the court officers. I state, and you put your name in there, so I, Christine Michelle Van Pelt, will faithfully perform my duties as an officer of this common law court according to the principles of natural justice and due process, acting at all times with integrity, honesty, and lawfulness. I recognize that if I fail to consistently abide by this oath, I can and will be removed from my office. I make this public oath freely, without coercion or ulterior motive, and without any mental reservation. After taking this oath, the jury members, the court counselors, sheriffs, bailiffs, and reporter will then convene and receive instructions from the adjudicator concerning the case. The adjudicator is not a presiding judge or magistrate, but an advisor to the court and has no power to influence. Direct, or halt the actions or the decisions of the jury or other court officers, except in the case of a gross miscarriage of justice or negligence on the part of the other court officers. Thus, the court is self-regulating and dependent upon the mutual respect and governance of all the court officers and the jury. Step 5. Pre-trial conference. The adjudicator brings together both parties in a pre-trial conference in an attempt to settle the case prior to a trial. If a settlement is not achieved, both parties must then engage in a mandatory examination of discovery, in which the evidence and counter-evidence and statements of both sides will be presented. After a period of not more than 1 week, this pretrial conference will conclude and the trial will commence. Step 6. Issuing of public summonses. No person or agency may be lawfully summoned into common law court without first receiving a complete set of charges being brought against them and a formal notice to appear or writ of public summons. Such a summons outlines the exact time, date, and address when and where the trial will commence. The public summons is applied for by the plaintiff through the court registrar. The summons will be issued under the signature of the court adjudicator and delivered to the defendant by the court sheriff within 24 hours of its filing in the court registry by the plaintiff. The sheriff must personally serve the defendant or post the summons in a public place and record the posting if the defendant avoids service. The defendant has 7 days to appear in court from the date of service. Step 7. The trial commences. Opening arguments. After an introduction by the adjudicator, the trial commences with opening arguments by first the plaintiff or prosecutor and then the defendant. The adjudicator and both counselors will then have the chance to question either parties for clarification and to make motions to the court, if it is apparent that the proceedings can be expedited. Note, Step 7 can still occur even if one side, usually the defendant, is not present in court and refuses to participate. Such a trial being conducted in absentia remains a legitimate legal procedure once the defendant is given every opportunity to appear and respond to the charges and evidence against him. An in absentia trial will commence with the plaintiff presenting his opening argument, followed by his central case. The court-appointed defense counsel will then be given the chance to argue on behalf of the absent defendant if that is the wish of the latter. It is often the case that a non-response or non-appearance by the defendant can result in the adjudicator advising the jury to declare a verdict in favor of the plaintiff on the grounds that the defendant has tactically agreed with the case against himself by not disputing the evidence or charges and by making no attempt to appear and defend his own good name in public. Step 8. The main proceedings. Assuming the proceedings are not being conducted in absentia and the defendant is present, the main proceedings of the trial then commence with the plaintiff's presentation of the details of his evidence and argument against the defendant, who can then respond. The plaintiff may be assisted by the citizen prosecutor. After this presentation, the plaintiff is then cross-examined by the defendant or his advising counsel. Following cross-examination, the defendant presents his case with or without his advising counselor, and in turn is cross-examined by the plaintiff or the citizen prosecutor. Step 9. Closing summaries and arguments to the jury and final advice by the adjudicator. After the main proceedings, the adjudicator has the chance to further question both parties in order to give final advice to the jury. The plaintiff and then the defendant then have the right to give their closing summary and argument to the court. The adjudicator closes with any final comments to the jury. Step 10. The jury retires to deliberate. The court is held in recess while the 12 citizen jury members retire to come to a unanimous verdict and a sentence based on their appraisal of all the evidence. There is no time restriction on their deliberations, and during that time they are not allowed to contact
They are not allowed contact with anyone save the court bailiff or who is their guard and escort. The jury's verdict and sentence must be consensual, non-coerced, and unanimous. Step 11. The jury issues its unanimous verdict and sentence. The court is reconvened after the jury has come to a verdict. If the jurors are not in complete unanimity concerning the verdict, the defendant is automatically declared to be innocent. The jury spokesman chosen from among them by a vote announces the verdict to the court, and based on that verdict, the final sentence is also declared by the jury. Step 12. The court adjourns and the sentence is enforced. Following the announcement of the verdict and sentence, the adjudicator either frees the defendant or affirms and authorizes the decision of the jury in the name of the community and its courts, and instructs the sheriff to enforce that sentence. The adjudicator then dismisses the jury and formally concludes the trial proceedings, and the court is concluded. The entire record of the court proceedings is a public document accessible to anyone and can in no way be withheld, altered, or compromised by the adjudicator or any other party. And we'll put this note here, a note on common law enforcement. It is understood that every able-bodied citizen is obligated and empowered by natural law to assist the court sheriff and his deputies in enforcing the sentence of the court, including by ensuring the imprisonment of the guilty, the monitoring of his associates, and the public seizure of his assets and property of the guilty and his agents, if such is the sentence of the court. This collective law enforcement is required in the interest of public safety, especially when the guilty party is an entire institution or head officers of that body. And we'll do this last one, a note on appealing common law court decisions. Under the doctrine of natural law, in which every man and woman is born with an inherent grasp of right and wrong and of justice, it is understood that a jury of 12 citizens, when given the complete evidence and facts of a case, will arrive at a just and proper verdict. The truth of that verdict must stand, and it's not subject to reevaluation or dispute, except in the case of a gross dereliction of duty or non-consideration of evidence. Therefore, the verdicts of common law court juries are not subject to appeal or revision, since the truth is not mutable or reformable. This solidity of a verdict is also required by the common law doctrine and custom of stare decisis, meaning the decision stands, whereby the precedent decisions of the previous court verdicts they have binding authority. Without stare decisis, the law is subject to the whims and political interference of rulers and despots. In the words of Black's Law Dictionary, the doctrine of stare decisis states that legal decisions are binding and shall not be reversed. Shall not be reversed. The decision stands. That is, once a court has entered its judgment upon an issue, it shall not reverse itself. This is, in fact, the foundation of legality in the common law system and is one of the principal differences between common and civil law. And that's their emphasis. All right, we'll continue in 2 weeks. The following next General Assembly or Jural Assembly call, and we'll continue here with verdicts enforcement and convicting rulers and institutions. I want to thank you all and see you on the next reading. Peace and love.
All right, so let me screen share again to get back to our presentation. We'll get things wrapped up here. Let's see. Maybe we'll get things pulled up. All right. So we went through pages 8 through 12, and we'll pick up in 2 weeks for additional ones. Let's bring this down a little bit here. All right. Okay. So, I'm not going to read through these given time considerations, but I wanted to make sure we got some of that information out, and you'll be able to see in the presentation agenda information here. You'll go through and see more details about how the jury process works in supporting us. All right. And as well as different offices, roles that are needed for within the Jural Assembly, and a little more information about each of those. Yes, even the coroner is within the Jural Assembly. Sheriffs and their deputies are within the Jural Assembly. But again, it all derives from the General Assembly. And you'll be able to get all more information about this. Even goes into more detail about the particular emblem for the sheriff, and the distinct differences in that. And then, of course, a sheriff can either be elected or appointed, and it gives more information. So they'll need to be a citizen with the 928 documents and no dual citizenship, all the contracts canceled. No licenses that create a divided allegiance. Depends on what the license is, and that review can occur. Then here are specific committees that are needed within the Jural Assembly with a little more information, as well as earlier on is a link about the different recommended committee, more detail about each of those committee structures within. So look at those and see what interests you, and shoot out an email to records at the Indiana Assembly as you are interested in joining and supporting the different committees. All right, and then again, who's in the jury pool? All American state nationals and American state citizens are automatically a part of the jury pool. Anyone in the jury pool may be contacted and asked to participate in a jury. The jury is selected through a vetting process at the time of a trial. Questions appropriate for the particular trial will be asked in order to determine if there is a conflict of interest that would disqualify them from participating in that jury. A jury of peers is chosen by the jury pool committee. While actively serving on a jury, a juror maintains a temporary American state citizen status. All right, so that would mean they would have to, even though they're choosing national status, they'll have had their 928s and canceled voter registration, IRS, and then depends on what the other things are. Those who cannot serve on a jury: court officers presiding over or assisting with the court proceedings, such as the justice, court clerk, bondsman, jural secretary. So they're not able to participate in the jury while they're serving in those roles. Nationals or citizens involved in the case itself or having conflicting interests, such as being related to someone in the case or being a witness in the case, will not be eligible to serve on the jury. All right, and then here's more information about our militia. And again, sheriffs are they're through the Jural Assembly, but they also are the peacekeepers within the militia assembly. And you'll be able to read more again here. Who is eligible? All able-bodied members of the assembly over the age of 21 are expected to actively support their militia in one way or another, either as active militia or acting in support, supply, communications, administrative positions. There's always something someone can do to help out, no matter how small a task. It all counts. Anna says many hands make light work. And again, of, by, and for the people. There is no paid salary position because there is no employer that is forcing the steal out of your account by the IRS to be able to ensure that there's funding to back this. Every single bit of it is funded and supported by you, the people. So ensuring that all the tech support is even, all the tech tools are even available come by through your donations, through your gifts to the assembly. All right, so here are the state level officers that we're looking for primarily the ones highlighted in yellow are big ones that, oh, it's moved. It's supposed to be chairman, secretary, librarian is just beneficial, but it's not an emergency need right now. And I think it moved from, I'm going to have to readjust those in the, but we're also looking for marshal at arms is our, some key ones that we're looking for right now. And they'll be in the term of pro tem until actually standing up, but they are actually able to work in those capacities. And all notices that are from the assembly come from the chairman, not the state coordinator. There were only certain things in the very beginning that the state coordinator could be able to do, and that was then still through a General Assembly vote to be able to bring those items forward. Things moving forward on building the assembly has to be presented by that and autographed by that chairman pro tem and not from the state coordinator. And again, here's links of assembly offices and call to public office, a deeper understanding of what the different roles are. All right, here are the articles since last week as to new articles that Anna's put up. If you notice, she's doing a lot of international public notice, so these are ones that you want to print those out and start sharing, right? Those are good outreach, good tools for outreach as well. Now, some important things. Here are the combined links so far, anyway, of all the tools that Anna has been presenting forward to help you in legal cases that involve asking for any sorts of money. Again, the coordinator can only bring this information to you. The coordinator is not going to write your cover letter. The coordinator is not going to be there to be able to hold your hand. You have to work through the process to see what's going to work for you, because you're the one that's going to decide what you're going to act on, what you're not going to act on, as well as you're the one accountable for whatever actions you do or don't take. You're accountable for whatever consequences come with that. But here is at least compiled in a list all of, starting with Article 4672, she starts going through giving some actual text verbiage that you can be able to include in your letter that you're wanting to put together. But it's all through there, okay? Now, also, and making sure that you have your assembly email, that your email address is being you're receiving assembly emails and you're not being popped into spam and stuff like that. More information as we go along will be emailed to you as it's updated as well. All right, so we discovered Joe wasn't able to connect with us this evening, but I had talked about the 100 air miles of border. It's most of the northern counties. That if the current county sheriff, if you think they're constitutional and it would be possible to be able to at least be able to talk to them, we may be able to get Joe to be able to reach out to be able to start connecting with them. Otherwise, if you don't think they're constitutional in any way and not willing to support the people, then we're looking for those men and women that would be willing to stand up for. We only need one per county, right? To be to step up and be elected for the county for the sheriff for that county to be able to start supporting the people and holding that wall up against the U.S. Border Patrol. As well as being there, that's where our militia, we the people, come together to also support holding against any illegal immigrants coming through, right? As well as here's, if you want more information about being an assembly liaison with the Peacekeeper Task Force, not doing any other role, and being able to go to the peacekeepers with presenting things that are going on with the assembly as far as on Indiana, as far as what you're noticing with the temperature out on the streets and everything, and how things are moving forward, as well as new things coming through the Peacekeeper Task Force that they can be able to share, that then that means as a Assembly liaison, you're also coming back to the General Assembly to present that information that you've learned from the Peacekeepers. All right, so here's the med bed that's out there. Here's more information. Here's their website and ways to be able to contact them directly. If you're interested in supporting bringing a med bed to Indiana, here is a link to be able to support directly for that. Here's a link for all the connections. All right, so that wraps up everything. The additional slides within this presentation are reminders for you to be able to study, to be able to keep current as to what's going on and how the different elements are working together, and we want to make sure that there's a few on. Is it possible that we can get someone to motion to adjourn until March the 25th for the next Jural Assembly? Would somebody be willing to put that in the chat to help us out? And then maybe someone can follow up with it, they second, so we can start actually, as there are people in the call, so we can close this out. So just put in the chat, I state your name, put motion to adjourn until March the 25th. If you're still on the call. I don't know if there's a lag, maybe, and if there's not much. Okay, so, all right, no response. This is a way to be able to also be included on the record, to be able to include in the agenda. Awesome, John. Thank you. John on Carroll County motions to adjourn, and it's till March the 25th. We're adjourning till March the 25th for the Jural Assembly. The next week, Monday, is the General Assembly. So we've got John on Carroll County has motioned to dismiss till March 25th, and we have Angie second. We have another one here. Let me see, in free conference call. All right, Wayne seconds the motion. Awesome, thank you, Wayne. And they're on Miami County. We'll make sure that gets on the record. All right, so and do we all say yay? Just all put yes in the chat. All those that didn't motion. Yes, awesome. All right. Thank you. I want to thank you all, and make sure, yes, John, thank you very much. So it is unanimous. All right, so we're adjourning then until March the 25th for the next Jural Assembly call. I want to thank you all and wish you all peace and love, and make sure you're still on next week's General Assembly call, because it all starts in the General Assembly. And the agenda presentation link will be in YouTube. It's probably going to be a little bit later this evening, but I'll have it up there and get everybody's info and who was on the county and motions and things like that. Thank you all. Peace and love. Have a great night. Thank you.